thanks to the creators of Guardian Tales for sponsoring this one. They were interested to see if they could win me over by making me push more deeply into the game and experience more of the story and some of the deeper mechanics. Now with that said, this is a sponsored video, so there won't be a score attached to it, and I will very much leave it up to you to decide what you make of it. I'll simply give you my experiences as well as tell you some of the more interesting mechanics in the game. On paper, a properly story-driven RPG that's completely free and that doesn't ram the FTP stuff down your throat should be quite nice. And keep your eagle eyes out for a small giveaway within this episode. The clue is it's related to the guild. If you enjoy it, then tick all the buttons. Thanks to all of the new viewers, we've absolutely been blowing up the last couple of months. I'm not entirely sure why, but it is definitely appreciated by Glen and me. Is it worth you investing time in Guardian Tales? Well, let's find out. The Kingdom of Canterbury has come under attack, and the narrative sees a hero who's strong enough to wield a mysterious weapon, with the prophecy speaking of an ancient champion who can unlock the power of the blade by finding the other champions and gaining their assistance in one way or the other. Alongside this, the main story area allows you to undertake side quests. These are single encapsulated stories within a stage, and they're entirely optional and will reward you with certain items. I was quite surprised by the detail that had gone into some of them. For example, one sees a lonely ghost who's become infatuated with the guardian ghost of the secret weapon in the area. She tries over several days to woo him, but all he wants to do is guard that damn sword. It was surprisingly comical, and meant that going on that side quest actually meant something. Plus, you got the sweet sword at the end. Now, a real important thing for me is that it's not too free-to-play heavy, aka how much have I got to spend? Now, I've played now for 5 hours and never once thought about spending a single penny. Essentially, in terms of the free-to-play elements, it's incredibly light on needing to do it. There is a small system that's demarcated with these teacups, whereby each stage requires some, but you're constantly getting it and receiving it in numerous different ways. The more expensive items and gear can be purchased, but I found a high rank machine gun, yes, the game has guns, and a nice little electric sword to use, and these could be leveled just using the in-game currency. Before we go any further, I would like to invite you to the SwitchUp guild. If you search for SwitchUp, you'll find the guild that I've set up, and well, at the moment it's just me. But there are 30 spaces available, and my name is Sir SwitchUO. It was supposed to be Sir SwitchUp, but it wouldn't allow enough characters, which was upsetting, and all those details are here. So come and join, there are only 30 places available, and I'm going to send one of you a code in-game. Now, aside from the guild, which is just me at the moment, you have your adventure section. This is your traditional RPG story, which is split over several stages. The stages are all tied to that main storyline, and they're part action RPG, part Zelda, like acquiring new items which allow you to progress and move on to new areas, like the bombs that would allow you to unlock new areas. And that's the case here. You find a large gauntlet which lets you carry larger bombs and throw them, as well as smash through some of the rocks. The action combat has a number of base attacks, and there's also a special move for each and every weapon in the game. Enemies will show a timer when they're about to attack, or there'll be a red area marked on the ground, which is helpful when evading the attacks. Now, the experience is entirely skill based, and while the earlier stages are relatively easy, as you move on to the second area and some of the boss fights, it gets surprisingly challenging. If you go down, you can spend some of your in-game currency to resurrect your character, or simply return to the start of a stage. You'll meet NPCs throughout a level who will often invite you on different side missions, which will then unlock on the main map. And contrary to my initial impressions, it's a little bit darker than I first expected. Like when I came across this character and had the option to either torture them or help them. I mean, I can understand ignoring them or helping them, but torturing seemed a bit harsh, so I avoided that at all costs. You're not alone on your adventures, and I was delighted to see this little doggo companion join me early on, where I could equip new weapons to him and help him level up. What was funny is if he died in battle on one of the stages, he became a walking coffin. I believe there are other guardian wolves that you can unlock, but I definitely enjoyed that. One of its most overt FTP elements are in the little reward currencies that you'll see at the top of the screen, and when you unlock your town area. Now, the town essentially allows you to put different items, dot those around, and decorate it in a style that you want, but it acts as a base before you go out into your missions. There's a shop here known as Camazon, where you can buy cosmetics, again using the in-game currency, or as you'd expect in a separate section for real world money. There's a blacksmith, where you can take any of the weapons that you've found in the game, and you'll find loads, and you can break them down and use those to level up your current one. Then there are the quite cool little 90s style mini games. They take place in the tower. They can be daily ones that change, but things like smashing up a load of cars, I felt like it was straight out of Street Fighter, but I do miss when games do that kind of stuff. You might wonder how you get new characters. Well, these can be gained just by playing the game, or you can summon them. These summons require the currency that you'll earn in the game again, or you could purchase it, but you are given a large chunk of it just when you start. I was able to unlock tons of characters, but I stuck with my default knight, just because. But there are a nice bouncy selection of interesting characters to choose from, of which you'll have up to 3 in your current active party, and who can essentially synergize with each other, which will use the D-pad and a bit of timing during combat to unleash some chain attacks. Now you can further expand your hero's skills by using the awakening mode. This is essentially an old school skill tree that, yep, it uses the currency you'll have earned in the game. And just by completing my way through the first stage, I was able to fully level my character up to 30. When you move on to the next one, that level cap increases. You can pay to increase that level cap, but you really don't need to. Now, depending on the type of player that you are, I think Guardian Tales may actually offer something for you. When I'd played, 45 minutes to an hour and chatted about it briefly in our Interesting Games video, loads of you in the comments said, hey, you really want to play that for a bit longer and see how you feel about it. And I can see why. There is something here. I think for me, it's not actually the mechanics or the weapons that you unlock and things like that. It's that the story makes sense and it was actually quite enjoyable and comically written. I enjoy the fast-paced nature of the stages. I think I will enjoy it even more when some of you pick up the game and join the clan and we kind of have that guild ranking. I do always prefer a multiplayer experience like this, and there is player versus enemy and player versus player if that's something you're interested in. Now, to briefly look at the visuals and audio, it has a relatively straightforward visual style. Everything runs at 60 frames per second unless it gets very hectic on screen and then it drops down ever so slightly. There's a touch of visual repetition, but there's also a good variety between stages. One of the bigger surprises is the quality of the audio. Some really nice musical moments in here with very few repetitive loops. Not too shabby. So that's it really. If you're after a nostalgic style classic adventure that has some puzzling into the different dungeons, a good combat system, hundreds and hundreds of different weapons that you won't have to pay for, then I would say it's worth checking out. There aren't any links to click. There's no click here and get 1,000 free coins or any of that stuff. Just go check it out for yourself, and if you enjoy it, let us know. And once again, a thanks to Kong Studios for sponsoring this episode. Alright then, thanks to our Patreons and to our members, and all that is left to say is for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!